Leave it. Hi, this is Brian with the Balance Dog, and today I have Tank and my duck. Hi, buddy. And what this video is going to be about is my strategy on how to work with dogs that have resource guarding issues. So what I typically start with, and let me preface this by saying he's has a pretty solid e-collar foundation, so recall, play, sit. And what we're going to work on today is an out and a leave it, right? So I started initially with this retrieving bumper, and you want that? Good boy, attaboy. And you know, I didn't punish him for this, and basically what I've done now is switch this out for this thing because it makes noise. So you can see I'm going from something that doesn't have a lot of high value to something now that's going to squeak, and I guarantee you that's probably going to jack him up. And then I'm going to progress to the raw meat bone or the food bowl. So let's see how we do, because I haven't used this yet. So Tank, get it, good boy, get it. Good. So I want him to take it in his mouth, and I'm only going to use a level that's appropriate so I can get a soft out. I'm not going to ride the lightning on him. I wouldn't do that with the food and the bone either, because if I had to, leave it. If I had to, I haven't done the foundation part enough. All right, so the other part of that, and I don't know if we can get it today, but the whole thing is with resource guarding, by them hunking over the bone or hunkering over the food, you know, that's stress because they're having to guard something, right? So what I want to do is create a new pattern for that. So the cue will be the same, whether it's this going down or the bone going down. The routine's just going to shift. So instead of him guarding it, the new routine is he has to move away from it. That's just a natural progression. If you've seen dogs do that with each other, one dog wants this, he moves towards him, and the other dog moves away. That's a good scenario, right? So again, it's not about being on a high level to get him to understand this. It's about building a foundation in sections, right? Tank! So I want to let him have it. Good boy. Out. Good. And he's working on level 6, so he's pretty calm. Get it. Boy, Tank. So here's a leave it. Good. Right? So he didn't have it in his mouth. Get it. Good boy. Out. Good. Leave it. Leave it. Good. And he kind of defaults into a sit. And it's not a big issue with him that I can actually go down and grab this. Sit. Sit. Good boy. Get it. So I want to drive that prey drive up. Out. Good boy. Place. Sit. And I don't want to sour this either, meaning I don't want to use a high level to teach him out or to teach him leave it, because, get it, I can also use it as a reward. Tank, get it. Let's go. Get it. Tank. All right. You're not going to get it. How about this one? Get. So anyways, so what I would do eventually is then I would bring out a raw meat bone. Good boy, buddy. Good boy. Well done. Well done. Good. Leave it. Leave it. Leave it. Thank you. Sit. Good. Get it. So what I do is bring out a raw meat bone or a bowl of food, and I would start everything from a perspective of leave it. Good boy. Tank. And I would start everything with a leave it. So if I presented the bone, I'm going to ask the dog to leave it if he encroaches and wants to take it. If I have a food bowl and I'm going to put it down, I'm going to tell him to leave it. So once the bone and the food bowl's down, then what I would do is move into the dog. So basically I would step in and I would tap and I would tell the dog to leave it. So I'm putting all three of those components together in one sort of smooth move, you know. Now, it's just every dog's going to be different. He's pretty easy, but I've had some really tough ones where I've actually had to go even in different progressions and put paper on the ground, like a paper towel on the ground. And again, that's not a high value thing, so I don't feel I'm going to get challenged by the dog. But I can move into the dog, tap him, tell him to leave it, and get him to back away from the paper towel. And then I might take that paper towel and put scent on it, whether I rub chicken or something on it to create a little bit of a higher value, and then do the same thing. This will give me a gauge based on adding scent and stuff like that. And you're taking it into these small steps, and then you work towards the food bowl. And again, I'm not putting the dog on a high level. I'm not putting it on a punitive level. That's not what I want. By adding the leave it and doing this foundation, and then also moving into the dog as you put all three of those together, leave it, step in at the same time, and the dog moves away from the food. Then you can give it a sit at that point, or you can send it to place, and then you can pick up the bone. But I did have a client one time where they gave the dog a raw meat bone, and it was on a little deck, so they couldn't do that exercise of stepping in and the dog moving away because you couldn't go anywhere. So what I ended up having him do is recalling him, and if he brought the bone with him, then I would just have him tell him to have him out it, and if he was going to go back to it, tell him to leave it, and then recall him away from it, put him to place, and then they can go pick up the bone or the bowl safely, right? So, but that's the key thing, because somebody showed me a video years ago of somebody doing a resource guarding thing, and the dog was on a place board, and it can't get off the place unless it's given a release command. Whereas me, the dogs can get off, like if they're like a high flight dog and they get startled. I don't care if they get off. I'm just going to recall them and put them back on. I'm not going to correct them. I never correct them on an e-collar on a high level for breaking the place. I might use a leash check if it looks like it's going to break. But the video had this dog sitting on a place and then a bone put down, and he was eating the bone, and then they dinged him on the collar and told him to leave it, and he was like this. Well, he couldn't, he was conflicted because he had to leave this alone, but he couldn't actually get up and move away from it for the fear of being corrected for breaking the place. So probably the place isn't the best place to do this sort of thing. I would do it more in this sort of neutral area. But anyway, so I hope that helps with any sort of resource guarding. Remember, do the foundation, use something like a retrieving bumper. It's got a handle on it. Present it to the dog, let him get into his mouth, and then, like I said, to get Tank to drop it, I started on his working level of like 7, and there's no hurry to get him to put this out of his mouth, to spit it out. So I just take my time, and I would just tap the collar and go up a little bit more each time, and then tell him out, and then you'll see the dog start to soften, and at that point I'll give it one more tap and tell him out. I'm not going to pull this away, because if I do, that can trigger him to come towards it again, right? So I might say out and move towards him as he releases it. And then you're gonna work on the leave it command. So again, you can put it on the ground, and if he goes for it, you can tell him leave it and want him to back up. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll have it here on the ground, and I'll go leave it, and I'll step into the dog at the same time. If he's still too close, I'll step in and tell him leave it again, and see if I can't get him to push off. You can also use a leash is another good option to guide the dog off if he doesn't completely understand what it is. Instead of going higher on the level, maybe he needs more direction. So I would use a leash to guide him, give him the tap, leave it, and guide him off. And as I'm guiding him off, I'm going to move in as well. So I'm just adding another 4th element, more information for the dog, and see if that clears it up for him. And if it does, then I can take the leash off and then go from there. So I hope that helps, and I hope you enjoy this video, and we'll see you again.